which senior would you most want back? And we've got Omari Thomas, Cooper Mays, Tyler Barron, and Wesley Walker. And that's how we want to start the conversation today, Jim, because they could use a lot of guys back. Let's be real honest. And a lot of guys that I don't think uh, quite hit their peak because of injuries or whatever. So I want to run through these names. And there's one in particular at the very end, Keenan Pili. Now, I know he doesn't have an extra year, but I want to get your thoughts. I know he's trying for it. Can he possibly get it? Because I know that you're really still tied in. So let's go to let's start with Javontes Spraggins. How big of a return would he be for the Vols if he came back with a rebuilt offensive line?
I think it'd be a huge return. I think any offensive lineman that they can get to return is going to help because they start a lot of seniors and they have a lot of seniors that are backups. And Spraggins is one of their best offensive linemen, so I think that would be huge. He has a significant knee injury. I actually asked him at the Knoxville Quarterback Club on Monday, was he looking forward to the draft? He said, I don't know, man. He said, I don't know if basically he said, I don't know if I'll be ready for it. He said, I've got a decision to make here in the near future.
Wow, that's interesting. And then tailback has been a position of strength, Caleb, but there's one guy that kind of disappeared a little bit this year. What are your thoughts on Jabari Small?
I don't think Tennessee necessarily needs Jabari Small back, and I don't think he's going to come back, but I don't think he's going to enter the draft. I think Jabari Small is going to enter the transfer portal and find a spot he can play immediately and for his final season of eligibility.
What your thoughts on that, Jim?
I think Caleb may be right because he didn't get that many carries this year, and I actually think Dylan Sampson's a better running back. Could that be predicated on whether Jalen Wright turns pro? Would Jabari Small say, okay, I'll get more carries if Wright's gone? Perhaps he would look at it that way, but I would think if Wright comes back, Jabari Small would not.
You know what's funny is I hadn't even thought about Jalen Wright turning pro. I look at him, and if this is 20 years ago, I say he's not ready for the NFL, but we know now that running backs don't have a lot of tread on the tires. You might as well go try to get that second contract as soon as you can. I wouldn't blame him if he went.
The interesting thing about that is the running back position in the NFL has been devalued. We've seen so many different running backs want 10 million plus and they can't get it, a lot of them. And so if it's devalued, do you turn pro early or do you go ahead and turn pro and get that second contract? I think you probably turn pro and get the second contract. And Wright's put himself in position to where I think he's not going to be a high draft pick. I think he'll be a middle round draft pick, but I also think he could be a good running back in the NFL.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Cooper leads the poll right now. Can you think of a player that could return? He does have a year of eligibility left, not named Brew McCoy, that could have a bigger impact on this football team next year.
Oh, when you threw that not named Brew McCoy, yeah. You snuck that one in on me. I think Cooper Mays is huge because they are losing a lot of offensive linemen, just like I think Spraggins is huge. And I think the offense was much better when Cooper Mays returned this season. Is there another guy that they need to return? Boy, that could have that kind of impact. I can't think of that person. I don't really think it's Aaron Beasley. You know, we've already talked about Omari Thomas, so I'm excluding him, right?
Right.
So
sure.
I don't see somebody having a huge impact to the degree of a Cooper Mays or McCoy.
Jimmy, I mostly agree with you, but I want to name one name and you give me your thoughts on this. And I'm going to go on defense real quick. And that is Wesley Walker, who could come back. We saw the fact that, I'm sorry, maybe I'm harsh, but Andre Turrentine was a waste of a transfer pickup. That was there was a reason he wasn't starting at Ohio State. He's not cut out for Division I football. And he was horrible on Saturday against Georgia, like historically bad. And so is there a chance that do you think that Tennessee almost needs Wesley Walker back at free safety just to save their secondary from returning to where it was 2 years ago?
I'm leaning toward no, because I think Wesley Walker is an average football player. I think they have a whole lot of average football players in that secondary. And I think he's
But there's a difference between average and bad.
Well, they have enough bodies. See, they have some young players. I remember you, and they don't necessarily play safety, but I know you like the Matthews kid a lot, right?
And yes.
Was it Matthews?
Jordan Matthews and then Ricky Gibson.
Yeah, and they have Gibson. They have Thomas. They have other young players that are better than Torrentine. So I think that whether they're corner or safety, I think they could plug somebody in and get the same production of Walker. The secondary is not very good, and I don't know that Walker makes that much difference because I don't think he's a special player. I think he's an average player.
I think you could say that about every player in their secondary, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought a couple of guys had the potential and the upside to be special, but I haven't seen it through this season. So, I mean, I don't know what case I could make for that. I have some pretty strong feelings on a guy named Elijah Simmons. That guy with his size-speed ratio, he should be destroying people. As one person within the program said, he should be throwing people in trash cans. I hadn't heard that one before, but yes, I definitely think he should come back. Now, what did they get? Did they get the guy who we've seen to this point who doesn't play incredibly hard nor physical, or do they get a guy who says, I got some money on the line? If they get that guy, then that's something different altogether.
Now, the last point you made is really interesting. If he's got some money on the line, there's a part of me that thinks that if Rodney Garner hasn't been able to motivate him by now, he never will. But cha-ching, the money might. But that would concern me a little bit. Simmons to me has been a big disappointment. I thought he would be much better than he has been. He's had some injuries. I don't know that he's been as motivated as he needs to be. But if he can get motivated and play with a little bit of fire, play with juice, as Spraggins calls it, I think he could be a really good player for Tennessee. But I haven't seen that yet.
Yep, I don't understand why he hasn't been a better player.
Do y'all think there's a chance he's too nice? This is a hilarious old. It's an old school phrase, but they used to always say you don't want choir boys on your team. Elijah Simmons is literally a choir boy. He's a singer, and so I mean, is him being a choir boy like? Is that the problem?
It might be. It might be that he doesn't have that nasty streak or that meanness in him, which to a degree you need to have to play, in particular on the defensive line. That may be the issue, Caleb.
I remember working for Jimmy at the time, and a defensive coach told me the best linebacker, and this is a joke, okay? So nobody takes it seriously, but he said the best linebackers were beating his children. I'm like, whoa, and that surprised me, but he was dead serious. And you have to have a little bit of a mean streak. I'm not saying you got to go that far. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Enjoy life better when you see better. Local vision service for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examination. ccteyes.com. ccteyes.com. Why don't you run through the rest of the names, and we'll give you a thought or two if you want to take over here, Caleb, on the rest of the names that could come back for 2024.
All right, so I'm going to name them, and you guys stop me. Well, don't stop me, but just after you hear them, tell me which names stand out. Because we mentioned Spraggins, Small, and Mays. Another offensive lineman, John Campbell Jr., can come back. Also, Dane Davis and Jackson Lampley can come back.
Let's address those three, Jimmy. I think Campbell is solid. I don't think he's great. I don't think Davis and Lampley bring you much back other than depth.
I would want Campbell back, and that would be the only one.
So you're thinking about this from, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You're kind of thinking about this from the perspective of getting scholarships back, right?
Yes.
Interesting.
And yeah, I am. And I'm also thinking about, I think those players are very average players. I think Campbell's better than that. I think he's a solid starter. So I would move on and try to develop some of the younger linemen that I have and also recruit some linemen.
Yeah, and the thing about Campbell is Campbell's. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say real quick. The thing about Campbell has an issue where he's too raw at times. But honestly, left tackle is the one position where you can afford to be a little raw and not have refined technique because just raw talent could get you by. All right. So on the defensive side, we haven't mentioned Tyler Barron or Omar Norman-Lott yet. I think I'd want both of them back.
I definitely would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We mentioned Elijah Simmons. All right. Going to the secondary real quick. Danico Slaughter, and apparently, I believe Gabe Giuliani can come back too. But Danico Slaughter, Gabe Giuliani, Brandon Turnage, Warren Burrell. Of those, and Tamarian McDonald. I would want Gabe Giuliani back just for his maturity and leadership. But is it anybody stand out in the secondary outside of him?
Jimmy, let's pick 2 out of the 5. I'm going to take Danico Slaughter because I said at the beginning of the year he would be Tennessee's most improved cornerback and would be a standout player. So I want to be proven right. It's kind of like that Chris Winkie bet that we had many years ago that he would be a 4-time All-Pro, and I'm still waiting on that, Chris. Come on back. So I'm going to stick with Danico Slaughter just out of pure dad blame stubbornness. I gave Judy Lawley, though, I do really like because he's selfless. I think if he came out on a Monday of game week and say, you got to play corner, he'd say, okay. You got to play safety, okay. You got to play nickel, he'd play okay. I like his versatility. Turnage, Burrell, McDonald, they don't really do a lot for me other than depth. Do you?
I would want Judy Lawley back, and I would want McDonald back over Slaughter. I think McDonald's a decent player. He's found his role as a nickelback. I think he's sufficient. So I would take him. Slaughter's disappointed me. I thought he would be better than he has been. So I would take McDonald and Judy Lawley.
Nope, I completely agree. And the last one is the one that we don't know, and Jimmy's going to be able to give us some insight, I'm sure, into this, Caleb, whether or not he could come back. But I think he would be a huge pickup for Tennessee.
Which is Keenan Pili. People are speculating that he can try to get an injury redshirt and come back for another year. The question is, will he get it? And the other question is, will he want it? Keenan Pili's 25 and married, and there's rumors that he just wants to settle down.
So could he get the medical redshirt? Yes, he could. There are several 7-year players that are playing right now in college football, including one that Tennessee was going to play with Texas San Antonio, Frankie Harris. This is his 7th year. You get those years if you have injuries that knock you out for the season. And so I believe Pili could win an appeal. But to Caleb's point, he's 25 years old. He's married. I talked to somebody that knows him that said he is ready to pursue his NFL career because of his age. Now, on the other hand, how much would he improve his draft stock if he came back and had a monster year at Tennessee? Probably improve it a lot. But the other part is, when you look at his age, from what I was told, he wants to go ahead and pursue pro football.
Man, that's disappointing for Tennessee. I think that would be a monster get for the upcoming season.